What's up, guys? I'm Brennan. I'm joined with Trent, and this is Recall. What's up, guys? We got a lot to talk about. We got some awesome news coming up from the world of League of Legends. We got Trent here again to fill us in. So let's go ahead and get started. First on the list, we've got the new champion, Kai'Sa. Am I pronouncing that right? Is it Kai'Sa?
I think it's Kai'Sa, yeah. All
Kai'Sa,
the
Kai'Sa.
Void champions kind of have like a weird thing.
Yeah. And
So
then,
like I think it's Kai'Sa.
yeah.
Pretty sure it's Kai'Sa.
Cool. And just in general, the new patch is coming out. We'll briefly touch on that. So take it away, Trent.
So patch 8.5 is going to be dropping this week in League and won't be hitting competitive until next week, in which EU and NA will get to it. So that'll be the weekend of I think it's the 16th or the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
So we really won't have to worry about anything there, any changes. With the drop, though, we might see some changes in competitive play when that happens. There were some jungle nerfs, more tanks again. They nerfed the percentage health bonus on Cinder Hulk, and a few other tank items got nerfed down. Seems like Riot's really trying to get the tanks out of the jungle, put a few more duelers, skirmishers back in, kind of like I predicted last week, and the exact opposite happened. all the tanks came in. It was more Skarner, Sejuani, and everything else than I had seen prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're good at dueling early too. I should have thought of that more.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Kai'Sa got released, so she was Riot's next AD carry, mid laner, jungler. No one really knows what she's gonna be best at. She's adaptive, hybrid damage, and all the streamers I've seen playing her, and this goes with most new champions usually, is that they seem kind of weak, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot to her. It just seems like her damage is super undertuned.
Right.
Like all of the stuff she uses, everything about her, it just seems like she's not doing damage in any of these streamers' games. I've been watching Cutie Pie, Shifter. They've been playing her mid, jungle, ADC.
Yeah.
I'm not that impressed. We may see her. I don't think we'd see her before playoffs, though.
Okay.
Like I think she needs some practice at the very least, if not straight up a little bit of tiny buffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see any team being willing to pull her out until playoffs. And on top of that, she kind of feels more Lucian-y. Like she seems more like a Lucian type champ. Very early game, very snowbally, but at the same time, if you don't find the perfect conditions within the first 5 to 10 minutes, seems like you might lose the game.
Okay.
And LCS AD carries have been very crit centric, very late game, hyper scaling, as they were kind of designed to be. So I don't know. We might see Sneaky bring it out. Sneaky's always famous for bringing out new AD carries. Double Lift may also bring it out. He was actually a part of the testing for the champion when she was just first being worked, and a lot of writers were saying how much he liked her because of her similarities to Lucian. So I don't know. We may see some changes with that. But as far as patch goes, there's not a lot to judge just yet. It came out literally today, and everyone's still working with it to see what's going to be strong, what won't be. As for the patch we're on, though, 3.4, or not 3.4, 8.4, excuse me. What a weekend that was. League of Banner of Command.
Yeah. Was interesting.
It's good to see there was actually counters. It wasn't nearly as OP as people were afraid it was going to be. Minion Dematerializer is now a much more liked rune just because you can save those 6 stacks and delete a minion from the game as they are pushing into your turret and killing it in 10 shots. But it's nice to see that's not as much of an epidemic as I thought it was going to, or as everyone thought it was going to be. Riot is still nerfing that interaction too. It's either on patch 8.5 or on the PBE. But they're going to make it so Banner of Command active and Baron passive on Siege minions does not stack.
Okay.
They'll still be strong. They just won't be nearly as strong.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a turret. Right now they take turrets in, I think, 16 shots. I think they'll go to about 22, 23, something like that. So a little more time. It's still crazy, but a little more time to survive in. I'm not entirely against the Baron Siege minion being hella strong. Like, that's okay with me, because if you take Baron and you're getting it, and one of two things happens. Either you're getting it at 20 minutes, which if you get it at 20 minutes, you've been dominant all game and deserve it. Or if you get it like 30, 35 minutes, the game needs to be ending anyway, so you need a strong way to end it.
That's fair.
So teams need to either be rewarded for snowballing really hard, or come 30 minutes, the game needs to be getting close to ending. At the very least, bases need to be broken open so more plays can be made on other parts of the map.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, just as a side note to that, um, just throughout the different patches that we've seen pro players play on, there was the meta where no one got a kill for the first 20 minutes of the game, and then the next kill.
Are you talking about lane swap meta or Ardent Sinister meta? Which one?
It was before Ardent Sensor. I'm trying to think what it was like 2 seasons ago. I think it was like before I even was like super into League.
It sounds like you're talking about lane swap meta.
Possibly.
Basically, top laner would switch on red side. Top laner would go to bottom lane would go to top lane, and they'd push 2 turrets and play super safe because they realized that putting a tank into an AD carry and support, the tank wouldn't die, but he'd never collect farm. But it doesn't matter because tanks don't need gold. And it was basically like the game started at 20 minutes after both teams got rolling with some gold already.
I think that was it. Because I remember watching games, it was the most boring thing in the world because it was literally 20 minutes of nothing, just farming and doing whatever. And then someone would get a kill, and then usually the game would end within the next 10 minutes or so. And that was every game almost. And then we came.
Oh, sorry. As for pro players, I think it's a little, if it's equally entertaining, if not maybe even a little more entertaining for those later game patches and metas to be in like present. That's a little bit better for them, because in a snowball meta, if you get shut down within the first 10 to 15 minutes and it's just watching how the other team styles on you for the rest of the game, that's not fun.
Yeah.
But as a viewer, at least, if the other team's getting snowballed on, you're getting to watch actual action at the very least. Even if it's stompy action, it's action.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was going to go to. My point is, do you think that games are going to be shorter now with how the new buffs are to the Baron minion and all that? Or do you think that it's going to kind of be the same? It's not going to be as big of a deal. Or maybe Baron is just going to be more focused. Obviously, it's a main focus already. But maybe we'll see more 20-minute Barons like that, more setups towards that goal just to get those games done and get more control early.
Most definitely shorter. The vision, everything. It's actually, Riot did a pretty good job with the vision balancing. They put it right at a spot where there's enough vision that people feel comfortable to make plays that they do have information on, but not so much vision that everything is an informed decision. There's still risk-taking, but it's not so blind that you just have to gamble the whole game away on one play. Like, there's still information. It's just there's less information present. So Riot really did a good patch on this one with removing the tracker's knife. They got the vision. I'm not going to say perfect, because I don't think there's ever a point where League is going to be perfect, because there's always 2 or 3 weeks from now, they're probably going to find the perfect meta, the perfect balance. Mid lane might start even taking one of the Sightstone items, and the ward game will be back, because that's what League always reverts to.
Yeah, for sure.
It almost always reverts to a vision game. Every patch they do always ends up adding vision. Like, someone finds a way they can cheese vision out of the items, and then the game slows down because of it. As far as I'm concerned, though, I think Riot did really good with that, and the Baron and Elder Dragon buffs were deserved, and they needed to be put in for the slow games that were happening all earlier this season.
Okay. And this kind of just came to my mind. Do you think Riot ever has these patches in mind just for the viewers rather than how the game plays competitively? Obviously, how the viewers watch it is going to kind of change, or how they play competitively is going to change how the viewers watch it. But do you ever think it'll be more of a and I remember listening to Cutie Pie talk about this on Beyond the Rift, but he likes solo plays, right? He likes a meta where he can just be solo and make these amazing plays throughout the entire game. Do you think that would be better for spectators to watch, to see all these players have a chance to keep making these plays, and not so much of a snowball meta where you get a kill early, you risk it and all that stuff, and then you just kind of go off that, rather than they balance it out to where a kill gives you a definite advantage, but not so much to the fact that the other player can't style and maybe pull out a kill on you?
So what you're saying is a style game, like
yeah, so basically way more based on individual play rather than the team play and like the macro play. Do you think that would be better for spectators to watch, or do you think that would take out the whole charisma of League of Legends?
I think it would be kind of, I mean, one step back, one step forward. Like, there is some definite like bonuses to that where everyone would be able to see their really like top players' style and stuff, but that's not the strength of some players in League. You look at players like Smoothie, players like Adrian, like I named two supports. I'm trying to think of a jungler off the top of my head. Maybe a player like what is his name? McSmithy.
Yep.
They're not known for their hype plays. They're not known for their extremely like micro decision, like micro play, all that stuff. They're known for their macro game. They're known for their decision making. They're known for kind of bossing teams around, and like bossing teams around sounds bad, but like leading a team to victory through movements and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So to over reward players for making micro decisions and letting them win the game solely off the fact that they just are flashier players would be a huge shift in meta. And it'd kind of be like going back to season 2, season 3, where if your mid lane could get 5-0 in lane, you basically win the game so long as you make your entire game about defending that guy. So it would kind of, I don't know, a lot. It's one of those things where it's opinion based. A lot of people liked that meta. A few of the people, like people who have quit watching League, always say that if that kind of meta came back, they'd start up again. And at the same time, it would get rid of some of these teams. I'm not saying by any means NA, EU, Western teams would be able to start matching Koreans, but it'd just be an entire shift in focus. Koreans would still probably end up beating us, but the reason Koreans are so dominant isn't just from their micro play, it's from a combination of micro and macro. And to get rid of macro and make it more focused on micro would just be a really strange shift in the way that Riot's been headed since season 6, which has been more and more team play, more and more like League is meant to be played with friends.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see, especially because I think it's harder for newer viewers who haven't watched League before, and they see all these bodies in an area like Baron Pit, and it's just like, what is going on? I feel like it's definitely easier for them to be like, oh man, he teleported and did something cool. Like that's a lot easier to process for a new viewer. They might not even know, like they could be flashing and like all these flash play. When you see a flash play, you know, oh, that was cool looking. Like there's stuff like that. And then when more of the macro play, like obviously when you break down macro play, it's awesome to see all the tidbits that of like detail that goes into it. That it's like, man, these players are thinking about a million things at once. Like it's awesome to see. But at the same time, it's like it's very hard for a new viewer and even like very casual viewers to even understand that. And they're just kind of like, oh, that was cool, you know?
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I mean that's the same thing in even popular sports. Like look at football. You have an entire offensive line, tight ends, and all that stuff. Sometimes you have a guy rotate up like your tight end to end up catching ball or stuff like that. And it's stuff that an average viewer, me even, like I wouldn't notice. Like going in, okay, they're in a different formation. They must be looking for this kind of play. Unless I was really thinking about it. I'm just looking to see who goes downfield and catches the ball or who runs the ball through the line. Like that's what I'm looking for. And that's almost the same thing. Like their macro play, their macro play is interesting to watch when they go up to the line, but sometimes people are just looking for highlight plays. Sometimes they're just looking for macro. Sometimes they're looking for a combination of both. So to take away macro play or to put a higher emphasis on micro would just be, like I said, not bad. It wouldn't necessarily be like an entirely bad decision.
It'd just be different.
It would be a shift in direction that I don't think Riot is interested in going.
That's fair.
They, like I said, they've shown an eagerness to continue working on team play.
I like that football example. That's good. Yeah, so that's a lot about the patch. I'm excited to see how the new champion works out and just all these different small little tweaks just to see how it all plays out overall. Moving on, though, we'll go ahead and transition over to some LCK news that you've got for us.
Okay, well, with LCK, I told you guys last week the match to watch was LZ versus SKT. If you wanted to watch a total stomp and see former world champions SKT roll over and die, well, then I hope you enjoyed it. Because, boy, was that rough to watch. I've never seen Faker so tilted. Like,
really?
He was making some questionable plays himself, and it wasn't like questionable in the sense of the fact that what are you doing? It was questionable in a desperate way. Like, game 2, he was just looking to make anything happen that he could, and even he couldn't pull it off. And I want to say that it's LZ is just good. I'm not even I want to say. I know LZ is good. They have the potential to be one of the greatest teams the league has produced if they continue their upward trend. I've never seen this many threats on a team all at the same time that kind of work so well together. But at the same time, SKT's falling apart in every way.
Yeah.
Bang and Wolf had a bad, at least last half of the year. Like the last half of their year last season was just bad. And then they have Untara and Thal, and they can't really decide who they're playing, but it seems like they're going to start playing Untara top lane. He's always been hit or miss. I mean, since they drafted Huni, he was their backup, but he can't play carry champions, and it feels like he can't play tanks into carries, so he can play a tank versus tank matchup, and that's like where his expertise ends. And Thal will just sometimes softball the game over to the other team for no reason at all.
Yeah.
And then you got Blossom, who is like budget Peanut from last season. He's aggressive, and he doesn't really ever shed that aggressive skin, but he went 0-8 in a game this week, I'm pretty sure.
That's rough.
Like,
yeah.
It's rough. I don't know how SKT is going to do it. I don't think they're a playoff contender. I mean, at least not spring. I mean, they're playoff contenders. They're not going to make it to semifinals, I don't think, unless SKT does its SKT thing, kind of the same thing as TSM, and just makes it, because the script writers want them in. But really not much there. So LZ is still easily Korea's #1 team. They are winning Worlds this year if they stay at the same pace or same trajectory that they are at. Africa Freaks looks like who they're going to be playing in the finals of LCK, because they're looking really good. Their bot lane's really strong. I'd argue a little bit stronger than LZ's, but I still think they end up losing to LZ in playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. The question I have, do you think we'll ever see Faker leave SKT? Or do you think he's just too valuable and they'll just never let him go? That's a tough one.
See, the thing is, everyone always talks about how esports players have a, lifetime, basically, and that when you hit 26, 27, or whatever, I don't know what everyone's theoretical cap is, but they always say how they're just going to deteriorate, new talent's going to be better. I don't think that's the case. I think Faker has the potential to play till he's, 30, 35, until he wants to start a family, until his interest really outweigh League. And in South Korea, the esports culture, you don't have to, like in NA and EU and Western culture, esports and a family life and adult life aren't necessarily super compatible. It's hard to settle down playing esports. In South Korea, that's not the case. They are much more open to esports, so it might still be a little bit difficult, but it's not entirely impossible for the two to be compatible.
That's fair.
So, do I think Faker ever leaves SKT? Possibly. Do I think he ever leaves Korea? No way.
Okay.
I think that he is valued as he's the most valuable player for any region at all. So if he were to leave SKT, any team in Korea would just pick him up.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless he slumps super hard, like within 3 seasons in a row, just plays awful, then he might move to a Western team just to get the big bucks and, coast. But I don't think that happens. I think he would honestly just retire because he's made enough money. And I could see him going to coaching.
Okay. That would be very interesting.
Everyone talks about his mentality. I think he could make a good coach. I just don't know for sure. I mean, obviously, some players you would think would make great coaches that don't. Some players that you think would make terrible coaches end up making it. So it's one of those things, you can't predict it. But as far as I'm concerned, Faker shines and shows no signs of stopping and has no reason at all to leave Korea, because he's never going to see a dip in his paycheck unless he goes 3 years of bad.
Yeah. Could you imagine him being on an NA team? Seriously, that would be something. That's when the world explodes.
Unless NA or unless any Western team at all wins 2 Worlds in a row, I never want to see Faker leave Korea, because that will mean that either he has completely deteriorated or Korea as a region has deteriorated. One of the two. And as much as I want to see other teams win Worlds, I do not want to see it happen like that. I don't want to see just a mass exodus of all LCK players and they all come to NA or EU for the big bucks, and then everything about the league is just completely unintegral, or it's just bad. That'd just be terrible.
That's fair. Alrighty, I think that's enough of that. We'll go ahead and we'll move over to EU LCS, and we'll throw the standings up here right there. And go ahead and take us. What happened in EU LCS this week?
Okay, in typical EU fashion, everyone beats everyone, and Fnatic comes out on top.
Okay.
It's an interesting place, EU as a region.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Fnatic and G2 in the top two spots. I think they would stay there. They both showed weakness this past week, but I just don't. I haven't lost enough faith in them to necessarily put them down anymore. I think they're going to clinch the first and second bye spots respectively,
Okay.
and they're going to make it into playoffs just fine. You see Splice and Vitality tied it up. Vitality went 1-1 and Splice went 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were crapping on Vitality, just saying they weren't as good as their standings reflected, that they threw games. You can't base it off 1 week. They've had basically 1-1 weeks almost all year, or like a few 2-0s and a few 0-2s. I think they're on the up and up, and I think they're only going to improve from here. They showed serious decision making. They dismantled G2. They understood the meta almost perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Just tore apart Perks and Yarnin and everyone on G2. It was actually insane to watch. They just had a really good grasp of the meta. I think Splice stays at number 3 and has a very good chance of making the finals and even challenging for EU LCS champion.
Okay.
But as far as that goes, I'd still give it like 40-40-20 Fnatic G2 Splice and chance of winning it. Or honestly, 50-30-20. I think Fnatic takes it. Fnatic just looks too good.
Yeah.
Hylissang and Reckless are finally getting their synergy down. And their win this week, or their loss, Fnatic's loss this week, I'm not going to attribute that to much because it came at the hands of Misfits.
Yeah.
And Misfits is just the strangest team I think I've watched in a long time.
Yeah.
So they go from making it to Worlds. They capitalized on their plan last year, which was make it to Worlds and make it to Finals. They did both those things, and they did insanely well there. And they came back and they picked up Sincux and they picked up Mickey X, 2 players from Spice. And they started off the season kind of rough, but then it went really well, and then it slumped really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And now what I've seen, or what I feel like they're doing, is basically this team isn't good or bad. It's like Schrodinger's EU LCS team. What they are is just this weird hodgepodge of good mechanics and good macro and bad macro, and they just drag whatever team they play into their game, which is, let's just make weird plays, let's make weird decisions, and if you play our game, we are going to beat you, and if you just say, hey, no, I'm going to play my game, you'll destroy them. So Fnatic fell into their game, and it was a 60-minute game with, I think, 2 or 3 Barons, one of them being stolen by Mickey X, their support Rakan, and a final fight with Baron at like 50 minutes in top lane by the downed first turret, as Fnatic tried to route them from Baron all the way up there, and then Misfits just turned it and killed Reckless, and that's how the game ended.
Wow.
So, like, my analysis of Misfits is that they are easily a semifinals team. They will make it there without a doubt in my mind, just by the skin of their teeth and everyone being like, we can beat Misfits, and Misfits does some weird stuff to beat everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I do not see them as a finalist team, and I most definitely do not see them as a contender for champions. Okay. I don't think they can take that spot.
Okay.
Vitality has continued their downward trend. They can still make playoffs. They got to make a little bit of improvements, or at the very least plateau, and they'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them staying in playoffs as the 5th or 6th spot. I think Vitality and Misfits switch positions as 4th and 5th seeds. And then I think Unicorns is the one that makes it all the way and is the final spot in playoffs, because Unicorns started the split off terrible, but their win streak right now is actually insane. It's 4 or 5 games. Okay. They have not dropped a game, and they've had an easier strength of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going off momentum alone, all they need to do is pick up 2 more games, 3 more games, and they are guaranteed at the very least a 50%, like a 500 win percentage. So I think Unicorns makes it as the last team into EU LCS playoffs. And then I think EU LCS still has relegations. So I'm hoping Schalke does not get relegated again, because this whole org's like the soccer team, and they're like, we support esports and we want to make an impact. And they had like all their players come out to their football stadium to be welcoming.
Oh
So if they
no.
get relegated for the second time, they really,
Jeez.
I want them to make it, but they do not need to be in esports because that's just bad luck. They have
I was about to
Xander,
say
they have,
too. I believe in Shulk. You guys could do it.
yeah, you guys need to be better. But honestly, I don't want to see any EU team get relegated this year. I really wish they had brought in franchising, which
hmm
with their strengths, chances are they don't end up being beaten by a lower tier team, but all of them have shown some good points. H2K has a bunch of rookies and are doing well now that they picked up Selfie. Roccat and Giants had a great start, and I mean Roccat especially, they always kind of in the same way Unicorns does, they always just end up making it somehow with weird players and weird rosters. They just end up doing at the very least okay.
hmm
Now, I mean, I wish I could see them challenge, but if franchising comes out next year, then maybe they stay, based on history alone, and they get enough support and monetary stuff like that they can actually pick up decent rosters, and EU might have a little bit more, there's like Fnatic G2 and everyone else. Maybe it's a little more parity, and we see a few more teams challenging.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I think that wraps it up for the ELCS. Definitely rooting for Shulk. They went 0-2, but
just pick up 2 more wins is all I ask.
I mean, yeah, basically.
It's been rough for the Schalke boys.
It has. We'll go ahead. We'll transition over to my favorite region, USA, 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 USA. Okay,
I'm sorry.
LCS.
Did you say Clown Fiesta? Clown Fiesta LCS?
Yeah, that's why it's so fun.
That is why it's pretty entertaining. It's a fun region to watch, not a fun region to represent.
That's fair.
Feels sad when we are at international events, but while it's just us playing, it looks hilarious and it's super entertaining. So
Basically.
NALCS kind of actually copied EU this week and had more 1-1 on the record than I think even EU did.
Oh, wow.
So once again, everyone beats everyone, but TSM does not come out on top. We don't know who's going to come out on top, to be completely honest. Everything's just in total disarray. So Counter Logic Gaming and Golden Guardians went up from the 9th and 10th seeds, both of them going 3-9, to the 7th and 8th seed, because Golden Guardians now tied with Optic and FlyQuest. The only reason I rated them higher is because Optic is on a 3-game loss streak and FlyQuest is on a 4-game loss streak.
Okay.
Golden Guardians is now officially only on a 1-game loss streak because they lost their second game to Cloud9 this weekend. But guess who they beat? Echo Fox.
Really?
So arguably that's a good team. At the very least, they can surprise people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Optic and FlyQuest are just kind of bad. I mean, they don't show a lot of fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't expect much from them. Now, with that being said, do I think Golden Guardians beats Optic and FlyQuest in a straight best of 1? I honestly don't think so, because I think Optic and FlyQuest have a higher standard. Like, their floor is higher than Golden Guardians' floor of play, but I think Golden Guardians has a higher ceiling. So if Golden Guardians comes into the game really hyped up and really ready for it, I think they could beat Optic and FlyQuest, but I think on just like any given day, Optic and FlyQuest should beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Based on strength of roster. But CLG fans, last week I told you to lose faith, drop them all from your fantasy leagues. And would you look at that, truly Counter Logic, 2-0 beating Cloud9 and Team Liquid.
They killed it. And I just want to say real quick, my fantasy team won.
I hate
Let's
you.
go.
Yeah. Well, I ended up winning anyway, so I can't be that mad at you. I think you actually elevated me to 3rd place in our league, sole owner of 3rd place.
Heck yeah.
But Counter Logic Gaming's the weirdest organization I have ever seen, and I just don't understand them anymore, because they beat Cloud9 after they were basically getting stomped all game.
They were getting destroyed, man.
They were getting destroyed all game, and they came back in late game on an early game patch. Okay, interesting. That's weird. I guess whatever. Come back tomorrow, and they destroy Team Liquid in the early game. One of the best early game teams in the entire league gets absolutely shredded by who else than Counter Logic Gaming?
It's in their name, dude. It's Counter Logic. They it's just right there.
It's truly Counter Logic. But the interesting story coming out of this is actually the fact that Team Solo Mid and Counter Logic, they're reviving their rivalry based solely on the fact that the most likely team that Counter Logic Gaming could take their place in playoffs is TSM.
Man.
So if TSM isn't careful and they drop a couple games, which they dropped a game they shouldn't have this week, then Counter Logic Gaming can sneak in and steal that spot. And for the first time ever, TSM won't make playoffs. Now, do I think that happens? No. I think teams figure out what made Counter Logic Gaming so successful, and then they counter that next week. But it's still an interesting story that what if the team that, like, basically all TSM fans were like, our rivalry with CLG is dead because CLG is a worthless team. If CLG came back and just said, nope, you're not going to playoffs, we are, after their terrible start to the season, I would die.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be so good to watch. And I'd love to see Hanser's smug face as he has to sit on the bench for all the playoffs.
It's very, very odd just looking at the standings, seeing TSM so far down. I know they've had bad seasons, like starts to seasons before, or splits rather, but I don't think they ever got farther than 4th or 5th, honestly. Like, they are just straight in the middle, like 7-7. I don't think I've seen that before.
They're at a 500 win percentage, and what's crazy is their losses. I mean, they came out ahead of Echo Fox, I think, at least one game this season, but you see them, they have a 0-2 record to Clutch Gaming. It's teams like you wouldn't expect them to be losing to. They're losing to consistently.
Yeah.
But moving farther up the ladder, you got Team Liquid and 100 Thieves sharing the 4th place spot. Team Liquid absolutely dismantled 100 Thieves to then lose to Counter Logic Gaming the next day. And 100 Thieves went from being dismantled to, I believe they destroyed TSM, actually. They just completely tore apart TSM, ran it right down through their base with the Rakan Zaya combo. It was really good to watch. It was really fun to see. Afromu's still popping off in the playmaking champs. It's his meta. It's his favorite kind of game to play. So I enjoy watching that. I think, honestly, I'll go into like actual predictions and placements and stuff later on. In 3rd place, you have Clutch Gaming. They're the most underrated team, I think, in NALCS, and not even like going into the split. Even now, I think analysts are still saying like Clutch Gaming has yet to show how strong they really are. You know, Clutch Gaming this, Clutch Gaming that. Basically saying, wait for it to drop, wait for the ball to drop. They're not as strong as they actually are. They locked in playoffs. They're there. No matter what happens, Clutch Gaming is for sure in the playoffs this season. I'm almost 90% sure there is no way they can be taken out of playoffs. So when does the ball drop? Does it drop in playoffs? Because I don't think it drops then. I think aggressive junglers are only going to become stronger, and that's Lyra's forte. Febiven, blossoms in mid when other guys are struggling, and a huge mid lane patch just happened. Clutch Gaming has earned their 3rd place spot, and I think they honestly stay there, if not 4th place. And I even underrated them going into the season, but Apollo, Haku have always been a consistent bottom lane. Febiven was insane in Europe, minus a few slumps when he hit playoffs. And Lyra is insane. The only one who still is kind of questionable is Solo, but he's just a consistent laner. He's not a carry player. He's just there. He's always a rock. He's like Zig when Phoenix 1 was a 3rd place team. Just a rock that was constantly there. You didn't expect him to pop off and carry, but you didn't expect him to feed ever.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with Clutch Gaming's performance. And then there's Echo Fox and Cloud9, who are still 1 and 2 spots in the league. They both dropped some questionable games to lower place teams. Cloud9 losing to CLG, Echo Fox losing to Golden Guardians. I think that's to be expected. It's winding down the season. They've already locked their playoff spots. They're just fighting for buys. They probably went in underestimating the 2 bottom teams and lost because of it. I don't think it's anything more than that. I don't think we're about to see the implosion of Echo Fox. I don't think we're about to see everyone has finally found a way to beat Licorice. He is actually a garbage top laner. I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's just end of the season. They're losing interest. They've made it to playoffs. They feel comfortable. They're kind of maybe not even resting. They're focusing more on patches later on and worrying about that and worrying about strategies already. And like, they're probably scrimming more to lose and see where their weaknesses are than scrimming to win for the LCS since they've already made playoffs.
That's fair. Yeah. Definitely a possibility.
So I still think Echo Fox and Cloud9 hold on to their buys going into playoffs. I think Clutch Gaming and 100 Thieves, I think, are honestly the third and fourth place teams. And I think Team Liquid and TSM are fifth and sixth because I think 100 Thieves has shown a lot of improvement and they have a lot more, not a lot more veterans, but a lot less tilt. They had Medios and Aframu on there, who I feel like Medios has gotten past his kind of depressed, tilted phase. He seems much happier.
Yeah.
He seemed really depressed for a while, but Aframu, I can never say that guy really tilts. I think he gets angry. I don't think he would like ever lose a game off of just emotions. There's Cody-san, who seems like a generally happy player, and then Ryu is just consistently straight-faced. I don't think he's ever happy or sad. I'm still not entirely convinced.
He's just a robot.
Yeah, like I still don't think that guy's a human at all, but I don't think 100 Thieves is a lot of tilt, and they went 0-3 and are bouncing back, whereas Liquid has just constantly been on a 1-1 kind of spree week, where it's like they win one and they look great, and they lose one, they look terrible, and you're like, what are we going to get?
Yeah.
Which impact are we going to get? Which double lift are we going to get? I don't know. And I think Team Liquid and TSM fight for 5th and 6th. And as much as Counterlogic's on a surge, I think it's coming just one weekend too late. And I think they just miss out on playoffs. But they can be proud of themselves for how they end up performing at the end of the season, because I expect them to go 3-1 in the coming weeks.
Okay. That's a fair prediction. Yeah, it's looking definitely an interesting end. I'm liking this dynamic that we got just right here in the mid tier with 100 Thieves, Team Solo Mid, Team Liquid, even Counterlogic Gaming. Like you said, probably won't make it, but it's just nice to see the competition there.
Yeah,
and
it's
see
definitely
how it's
interesting to see, because, I mean, you could honestly argue that there are 3 tiers in NALCS, and it's Echo Fox, Cloud9 as the top tier, the bottom tier being Optic, FlyQuest, and then the middle tier, I could honestly see someone saying it's everyone from Clutch Gaming to Golden Guardians, with Golden Guardians really being the only one who's kind of towing the line between their 2 tiers, because they're all doing decently well at the very least. They all have strong rosters, and Golden Guardians, I believe, was on I believe they're 4-1 or 3-2 in the past 5 games, which for a team that was 1-8 going into the second half of the split, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane improvement.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah, we've got our fingers crossed for him for sure. I think that'll wrap it up for our NA talk, but we'll go ahead and transition over into the fun stuff. We'll go hit some highlights. Let's see you there. All right, guys, we got a lot of good highlights from this week. Well, we got some silly highlights, we'll say. We got some good ones, too. But we'll go ahead and hop straight in here. We'll start off with some NALCS, and we'll leave it to the casters here.
Another 4-man play coming by here.
What a wonderful binding from Biofrost. That's 2 on the stun. Uhi down here as well. Oasis gonna die, and Darshan didn't even need to be there, but shows up for the party.
So definitely a cool play there. Go ahead, take us away, Trent.
You see Biofrost, they didn't have it highlighted at the very first, but he ultied with Bard and caught the bottom lane of TL right outside the turret. And right there, he flashes in and hits his Bard Q. And they talked about it on the analyst desk with Jat and Mark. They tested it. If he had not hit that flash and he had actually just hit Brahm's shield, the stun would not have gone through. So when he flashed like that and hit, double lift first, he ensured the stun on both of them instead of just a Q with some extra damage on Braum. So it's actually an insanely good heads-up play by him. For the silliness aspect of it, it's kind of unnecessary because all 5 of CLG was roaming to the bot lane.
Yeah.
So it was very nice. It was a very nice looking play. And honestly, maybe if they hadn't had Hui come down and hadn't had Darshan TP, then you could argue it was like an extremely good play, and they would have won that whole fight 2v3. But I'd rather have a little bit of overkill than a little bit of underkill, and it just looks like a goofy flash where he ends up dying under turret. So credit to Biofrost. That was a really good flash Q on Bard, and a lot of game knowledge there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like last week with Matt. Who's to know if he actually knew the mechanics of that he knew the Bard Q wouldn't go through the Braum shield and actually block the stun. But benefit of doubt, I'm going to assume he did, and he's just a mechanical genius.
I'm going to say so because he flashed for it, I'm definitely going to say that was on his mind. Whether he knew 100% or not, Who knows? But I'm going to say outplay. It was
Took
a flashy
chance.
play.
He's like, Stixay, trust me.
Basically.
Follow my lead.
It was definitely beautiful. And we'll go ahead and transition to the next one. We've got Broxa over in EU LCS, and we'll go ahead and put this up, and we'll let them take it away.
Fnatic should know that this is happening. They get a blue trinket down. 5K and drop, and Broxton needs to make his way in immediately. Jaxel's trying to find the Kha'Zix. Can he get out of it? But he's still Oh, God, the turn.
All right, so go ahead and explain this one to us.
So your boy Broxa comes in with the Kha'Zix empowered ulti. He was stealthed up, so the whole Vitality team did not see him coming into the pit. Vitality has been notorious for not hitting their smites. Their jungler Gilius, trash talker extraordinaire. He misses a ton of them. So he sacrifices himself for the greater good, but he saves a Baron there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a really nice heads-up play. As a jungler main myself, it's nice to see, like, hey, we may be getting stomped, we may not be getting stopped, it doesn't matter. I can make it so you guys don't even feel safe to take an objective that we have nothing to do with. That always feels good to say, like, nope, you're not done with me yet. I'm still going to be here to bug you even when you think I'm nowhere near.
Yeah.
But it's not just the fact that he did that once. Brennan, Mr. Host, I'll let you roll the second clip whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and put it right on.
It's going low. 4K dropping. Broxa, hero moment. This is your chance. 3K getting ever lower. Who's actually going to take it? And it's Broxa gets it. Are you kidding me? Takes it back, gives his life, but saves the day for Fnatic.
So despite the Caitlyn line of traps, Broxa does it again, this time with the Elder Drake. I think it was actually going to be Vitality's second one at the very least. The Elder Dragon got buffs anyway, so the fact that he stole that, Vitality had 3 Elemental Drakes already. He saved the game again for his team. Kha'Zix EQ, jump in, nukes the Baron, or nukes the Elder, gets over the line of Caitlyn traps, sacrifices himself for the greater good. The man's a hero, national legend, but it's just, at some point you have to wonder who's, like, is it a highlight or is it just dropping the ball from Gilius?
So I was going to ask, who's the real hero here? Is it Broxa or is it Team Vitality as a whole, Justice League and that stuff? Like, they...
I'll say Gilius just putting the team on his back, just not his own.
Yeah.
It was carrying Fnatic to victory, limping and dragging them just all the way to the finish line. I don't know. It's fun to see just win those games because there are always a few of them, like every season, where a jungler just cannot hit his smite and the other one is on point and he just continues to steal it from the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the tilt there on Gilius has to be insane because at first I almost understand him more for the losing the Elder than I do the Baron. And a lot of people be like, how could you miss 2 in a row? Because on the second one, you're already tilted and you're overthinking everything. You lose all track of what's actually going on. You're just like, I can't lose this again. I can't lose this again. You freeze up and you lose it again.
Yeah, for sure.
On the first one, I honestly am like more like, you shouldn't have had that much pressure on you. You should have just hit it.
Yeah.
But with the second one, I can see him being super stressed out. He loses again. Then he, loses his mind. And they didn't mention it, but he like threw a monitor off the ULCS. I'm only joking.
Okay,
but
I was
I
like,
see it happen.
no way, that'd be sick.
I
Fine.
can see it happening the way he trash talks on Twitter, but
Yeah.
sadly, no, we don't have any ragers in League to watch that at least not hired professionally.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, definitely fun 2 little clips there. We'll go ahead and bring it over to an LCK clip. We've actually have one this week. Props to Trent, and we'll go ahead and play this.
Find themselves in a gold lead, all things to his mid lane.
Here's the play, the Predator coming in. He's going to lock down Lava for quite a while, but they're not scared to dive in here. There's the Olaf ultimate. Can they burst him? One more hit. They do not. How does he get out of that? What the hell? And the ultimate comes in. Someone, first blood goes over to Beyond. That such a close fight. But
Man, oh man.
That was close. So MVP Ian barely makes it out by the skin of his teeth. The Azir sec was actually really good. Rox played that pretty well. I mean, I honestly want to say it was just unlucky because Sejuani happened to recall, make it to mid or right as that happened. Olaf could have honestly continued diving to pick up the rest of the kill or at least force him off with a flash and an ult. But Sejuani showed up, and on top of that, Ryze just hit the perfect ult, perfect timing, made it out with, I think it was 50 health or less. And on top of all that, they turn around, pick up first blood on Sejuani against an Olaf. So
yeah.
Olaf's an early game champion. He's going to fall off late game. What's the quickest way to ensure that you fall off late game? Is to give early kills up. So it was
Basically.
just really good heads-up play by MVP. Their jungler was there waiting for it, and micro decision, and honestly, just a tiny bit of luck on their side too. That there were maybe
Tiny
some
bit.
missed skill
Jesus
shots.
Christ, that was 50
Yeah.
HP, bro.
Yeah.
One more auto
Once
and
again, we are a benefit of doubt production. I'm assuming he was a mechanical god. He knew exactly what he was
all
doing.
right.
He calculated all of it.
I'll stay
It
with the
was
program. That
extreme.
works. Yep, he's just a god.
Okay.
All right, I think that'll do it for our league segment. Unless you got anything else to add, any parting thoughts?
Honestly, that seems like it's pretty much it. I didn't prepare any matches of the week for you guys, but that's because I looked through, and honestly, there wasn't that many storylines I could think of that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically going to be watching all the playoff teams, specifically those lower packs, seeing who makes it, and maybe just keeping an eye on Echo Fox and Cloud9 and Fnatic and G2, and seeing who clinches the first and second bye.
For sure.
But I don't think there's a lot of interesting matches to watch story-wise that everyone should tune into.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and throw it over to some Overwatch stuff. We got a lot of fun things planned. We'll start it off. We got last week's games. I'll throw up a graphic so everyone can see what we're talking about here. And Trent, if you want to go to just overwatchleague.com, and if anybody wants to go to overwatchleague.com, you can see all of the Stage 2, Week 2 standings and what all went on. We'll just go basically game by game here, starting on Wednesday. We had Seoul Dynasty playing the Dallas Fuel. This was a good match to watch. The Dallas Fuel, they have QCK back. Everyone's kind of wondering if he's going to turn up, if he's going to be great for his team or not. And honestly, a few of their games weren't bad. They ended up taking a game off of Seoul, which I was kind of impressed with. Another point to give about it is Seoul Dynasty didn't just lose. Everyone was really questioning Seoul Dynasty. They had a rough couple of weeks back in Stage 1 towards the end, to the point where they didn't even make semifinals of playoffs, or they didn't even make playoffs at all, I don't think, which is just crazy because they were the most dominant team in the first half of Stage 1. No one could touch them. And so it's just crazy to see that they didn't even make playoffs of Stage 1. A lot of question marks, but it looks like they're doing okay. They were able to they're still showing that they're a dominant team. They might not be a top team, but they're still not going to lose to those lower tier teams. They're not going to just drop silly games. So it's good to see from them. Next game we're rolling into is the Los Angeles Valiant versus the San Francisco Shock. San Francisco Shock, everyone's got some high hopes with them. Sinatra coming into the mix. But they do go down 3-1. And this kind of comes back to Los Angeles Valiant. They're actually really turning up here in Stage 2. Just everything about them, just how they've been playing as a macro and as a team, it looks really, really good. They've had a lot of good individual plays. Soon has been popping off on Tracer. It's been a lot of fun to watch. And that's definitely a team that we might even see in the playoffs of Stage 2 if they keep this up, honestly, which is really, really cool to see.
Sorry for interrupting. Yeah. Do you think they're evolving past their gatekeeper form, that you think they're actually going to start maybe moving into contesting the top 4 spots? Or do you think we still should kind of expect them to hang out at 5th place, and if you beat us, then you can challenge the top 4 and maybe make it into playoffs?
As of now, they're still the gatekeeper. And this will kind of pad that. They didn't really play any great teams this week. They played the San Francisco Shock, which they went 3-1. Congrats on the Shock getting one map. They also played the Dallas Fuel later, and they beat the Dallas Fuel as well. And so it's still kind of that gatekeeper mindset where they're still going to trash on these lower tier teams, or at least do pretty well against them. But we haven't seen them be able to prove themselves against the top tier teams. So we'll definitely look into next week and see how they're going to be faring off. But we'll go ahead and move on. We got the Los Angeles Gladiators to wrap up Wednesday of last week, going against the Shanghai Dragons, and there's really not much to say. Shanghai is just still struggling away. They went 4-0. It's sad to see, honestly. And the Gladiators, they're a decent team. They're not by any means the best team. Right now, I think they're number 8 in the standings, so it's not like they're horrible by any means, but Shanghai is really, really struggling, and they got to figure something out soon because it's just not working. They haven't won a single game yet, which
Yeah, that's rough.
It's really rough. But we'll go on to the next day. So we got Thursday. The Florida Mayhem played the London Spitfire, and some of the analysts actually thought that Florida might be able to take a few games off. Excuse me. They ended up actually taking one map off the Spitfire, which was really, really impressive. Honestly, my prediction was Spitfire 4-0, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, get out of my face. But they were able to take a map. Pretty good showing overall. A few of the maps, London just kind of trashed them, but we are seeing them, Florida Mayhem just kind of, we're seeing all the teams, these lower teams, get better and better, but it's just not quite enough to beat these top teams. I think we're really going to see a lot of really good competition in Stage 3, just from what we've seen. Probably my favorite game of the entire week that I got to see was the Houston Outlaws versus Philadelphia Fusion. Going in, I predicted that the Outlaws were going to win 3-1, and it was going to be hunky-dory. The Philadelphia Fusion are definitely a solid team. They're right around that gatekeeper status with the LA Valiant, but they actually took down the Houston Outlaws 3-2. They were down 2-0, and they came back with a reverse sweep, won the tiebreaker, and the guys, they were just so hyped to be able to prove themselves and win, and it just really showed. I would consider the Houston Outlaws one of the top teams. They aren't in third right now, or they were in third, and Philadelphia Fusion really proved themselves there, so it was definitely cool to see that. Next game, we got the New York Excelsior versus the Boston Uprising. And a few people honestly picked the Boston Uprising to give them kind of a run for their money, basically. Boston Uprising's got a lot of good players. But New York Excelsior, they're just too good.
It's always when you think that the underdog can challenge and has a realistic chance that they get stomped. That's always the case. So poor Boston Uprising, but hey, you have New England Patriots versus New York Jets. So get turned around on for once. That's fair. New York deserved that win.
Yeah, it was a rough day for them, 4-0. But very next day on Friday, they got to play against the Florida Mayhem. And actually, I remember watching this. Every single analyst on the desk predicted the Florida Mayhem to beat Boston Uprising, which is really crazy because Florida's pretty far down in the rankings. Boston Uprising has had a so-so stage 2, and even their stage 1 was meh. They did pretty well towards the end of it, but then they kind of went back down to earth. But they got the 4-0 actually. Completely blew everyone's minds as far as expectations go. Really had a good showing, and we're hoping that they can just keep doing that and rise a little bit.
So what's up with the analysts predicting Florida Mayhem to win? Do they expect more from this team? Have they shown little slivers of life, or is it just that they happen to think that maybe they'll get upset in the same way that Golden Guardians are upsetting Echo Fox back in League?
So it's definitely has something to do with how well the teams have been playing. I mean, Florida Mayhem, they took a game off of, who was it? I gotta find it. I don't remember. I thought they took a game off of someone. I think it was last week. Oh no, they took a game off of Spitfire. There it is. Which is crazy. Like, if they were gonna get 4-0'd, they get 4-0'd by Spitfire. And they had honestly a decent showing against the Spitfire. It wasn't like, I think 2 of the games, of course the game they won was good. Another game was kind of pretty good. It was pretty close. And then the next 2 were meh, but it wasn't like just a complete stop. It's just decent play, basically, I would say. But they're showing life a lot better than what they were at the beginning of Stage 1. They were really, really struggling. One of the bottom teams in all of Overwatch League. And they've kind of come to life. But Boston Uprising really showed. They have got Dream Casper. He was popping off. Really showing that they're still a team to compete with. They just got to figure out how it becomes consistent. That's all it really is and boils down to, is that consistency is just not there, and that's what's going to do it in for them as far as playoffs go. But we'll kind of move on here. We got the LA Gladiators playing Seoul Dynasty, and I had a lot of surprises this week in general. They actually lost, which doesn't surprise me whatsoever, but they did take a map off the Dynasty. So I didn't get to see that actual game. I watched a few highlights and whatnot, but I'm not sure if it was the Seoul Dynasty getting lazy and just dropping a map, or if the LA Gladiators were really just actually doing well. I did see 2 of the games rewatching, and the Seoul Dynasty kind of just took it away. No, like easy peasy. It wasn't even a firefight. It looked like they were playing some high school team versus a pro team. But it is definitely cool to see the LA Gladiators take a map. These map counts really do matter in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're looking at playoffs. I mean, stage 1, the Outlaws were able to make playoffs over the Seoul Dynasty just because they had such a better map difference. Like, that was the only thing that got them through. And so when it gets down to these last few weeks of the stage, it's really, really imperative that you at least get a few wins, even if you're losing. But we'll go on. We had the Dallas Fuel in the Los Angeles Valiant. Kind of mentioned that earlier. We're really looking to see Dallas Fuel kind of come alive. We're still waiting for them to have that breakout moment where they're back. You think that they're gonna come out, but LA Valiant, like we said, they're the gatekeeper, and they shut the door. They won the first 3 maps. It was pretty. I'll say one of the games or 2 of the games were decent. One of them was just a blowout. I think it was the first game. It was like, oh no. Like, this is the Fuel are going back to where they are. Like, it's over. And I think it was this series that, what is his name? Effect, the DPS player for the Fuel, and he's actually a Korean. During halftime, he didn't go into the locker room like with everyone else. He stayed out and he was sitting there playing Overwatch. And they later explained that all the mics and stuff are still linked up, and so he was still talking with his team. It wasn't like he was like, "Oh, I hate my team." He literally just wanted to play the game, so that because he felt like he was playing like trash. He literally said, "I think I'm playing like trash. I'm gonna stay out here and play," which is cool to see. But it also is kind of scary because you see like he's not confident in his play. Like I think he was probably tilted as well. It's just very odd to see that a player would stay out and not go with his team, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You would think that, I mean, Mike's linked up or not, there's stuff that can be done in the locker room that you wouldn't do for, like, camaraderie kind of stuff,
For
at the
sure.
very least pat on the back kind of stuff. So the fact that he avoided that entirely, whether he thought he was playing like trash or not, that says a lot to his teams or his teammates too.
For sure.
Hey,
And
my teammate doesn't want to come, to the locker room and talk about what we're going to do, in person. He'd rather just sit out there and try and carry on his own. It's questionable, to say the least.
For sure. And he is, I will say, because he is the only Korean on the team, if I remember correctly. And so he is almost kind of the outcast just from a cultural perspective. And for the most part, like, you can, when they hang out and stuff like that, like in like promo videos and all that, they all seem cool, but you definitely can see, like, you just know when there's one Korean player on the team, there's just so many cultural differences. There's just everything in the way of that's a barricade as far as social gathering and social awkwardness and all that fun stuff. So it definitely said a lot. I know QCK was talking about that whole ordeal on his stream and basically said, no, we're all good. He said that he wanted to stay out and we were cool with it, but you never really know how everyone felt. It was definitely some disconnect there. They were able to take the last map. It was 3-0. It was looking like it was going to be a 4-0, but they were able to take that last map. So there was a little bit of shimmer of light. It wasn't horrible. Then on Saturday, we had the Philadelphia Fusion, and this day was just a bunch of 0-4s, sadly. Philadelphia Fusion, we thought maybe they can take it to the Spitfire. Maybe they can get a few games off. Maybe we can even have a whole set go to Game 5. But London Spitfire, they shut the door. It was 4-0, and it really kind of makes you think whether or not Houston Outlaws should be paired with these top teams, being that Houston Outlaws had trouble with the Fusion. Maybe it was just a bad game or a bad series. Maybe they just let some things slip. Or maybe they really just aren't as good as we think they are. I would definitely put them as the highest tier non-Korean team. But we're starting to see the Fusion get up there and compete with them. And honestly, they may take the spot within the next 2 weeks or so. So it's definitely an interesting dynamic right there. We got those middle tier players that you really don't know who's going to get playoffs, which is always really, really fun, especially towards the end there. We had the Houston Outlaws play again. They had a really rough week this week. They dropped 0-4 to the New York Excel. Excel just kind of, it wasn't even a horrible, 4 maps. Every single map and throughout the entire cast, every single one was like, wow, that was the closest 0-4 we have ever seen in, ever on Overwatch League. Every single game was just looking so good. And I'll show you in the highlights here soon. We have 2 highlights just from this series. 2 of them actually are on the same map. There were so many plays going back and forth. it felt like it could have gone either way the entire time. But Excelsior were just able to edge them out, just barely there. And lastly, what we talked about last week, we got the two real crappy teams showing up, Shanghai Dragons and the Shock. And the Shock took it to them 0-4. So Shanghai wasn't even able to get a map. The Shock played really, really well. And it's Shanghai, man. It's scary for them. It's really, really scary.
Does Overwatch League have relegations or anything?
See, that's what I don't know, and that's what I don't know if they could do that. I really don't know how that would work with.
I don't want to go advocating for a team to get kicked out of their league in the first year, but if you haven't taken a single game and you're like winning, you've taken 7 maps, like you've just happened into 7 minor victories in a battle, not the war. Dude, there's got to be something wrong with that team. I mean, I guess maybe they're more attached to the Chinese player base, but at this point, pick up some North American players, pick up some European players, just throw someone in there because I know you're talking about how China like to have all these up and coming players that might go to Overwatch, might go to streaming. They need some sort of padding. At the very least, they need to get their long-term plan enacted like now.
Yeah,
because they may not be in running for relegation. They may not get kicked out of the league, but they're bleeding the fan base, and they had a lot of potential to be one of the biggest teams. They had the entire Chinese market, and honestly, I mean, from purely subjective bias standpoint, Shanghai Dragons have the coolest logo. So like,
that's fair.
On all these being new teams, they could have picked up fans like that, and they're already just hemorrhaging them due to being terrible.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm honestly very, very surprised at how bad they are. Going into stage 1, everyone knew that they weren't the best team, but I don't think anyone could have predicted that they would literally still have not won a single match yet, which that's just absolutely bonkers to me. That's just crazy. But yeah, that wraps it up for last week. A lot of really good games. I'm really excited to see how the LA Valiant turn up. We'll see how they do this week. And we'll go ahead and...
Let's make some broad generalizations as a person who, as only in week 2, just going into week 3. What 3 teams make it to stage 2 playoffs? And what team is going to be the champion of those stage 2 playoffs?
So honestly, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I'm going to say the LA Valiant are one of those that's in the top 3. It's going to be New York Excelsior, London Spitfire, and I'm going to say the LA Valiant. I'm going to say that Seoul Dynasty is going to take 4th at the end. Then we're going to be followed by Houston Outlaws, and then Philly's going to still be in 6th, just kind of like last season. I really do want to say that the LA Valiant are going to somehow pull out a miracle and just pull out some really good games. They're looking very, very good on the maps they've been playing. They just got to figure out these Korean teams. And once they do, I'll hop on that train. I'll definitely hop on that train.
Well, how does the strength of schedule look for the LA Valiant? Honestly, looks like they've knocked out some of their harder teams in general. Okay, so the harder teams they play is still Excelsior, Philadelphia Fusion, and you can make an argument for them having to play Houston Outlaw or Boston Uprising being one of their harder teams, and then they have to play the Houston Outlaws. So that's 3, maybe 4 games that might present some difficulty. But then they also play the LA Gladiators. They play Florida Mayhem. They play Boston Uprising. So those should be some free wins.
Yeah.
Like, in all honesty, I get where you're coming from. That they look like they have not necessarily an easy strength of schedule, but also not one that looks like it'll stomp them into the ground either.
For sure. I guess we'll go ahead and transition straight into what to look for in week 3. We start off with Seoul Dynasty and Shanghai Dragons. Stomp, don't care, write it off, 4-0. I'd love to be wrong. I would prove me wrong, Shanghai Dragons. Please, for the love of God, prove me wrong. But there's no way in hell. After that, we have the San Francisco Shock versus the Fuel. I'm predicting the Shock win this. Fuel still haven't gotten everything together. I want the Fuel to be a thing so badly. I've been wanting this team to be good. I love Effect. I watch his streams all the time, and the dude is just insane. But they just suck together, and it makes me so sad. It's so sad. After that,
So, despite your hope for Dallas, you're voting for the San Francisco Shock. Would you give it what, 2-1, 3 or 2-2, 3-1? What are you thinking?
3-1 San Francisco Shock.
Yeah.
Yeah. After that, we got the Battle of LA. We got the Valiant versus the Gladiators. Valiant have taken it so far. I think they've met twice so far, or maybe just once. I know that Valiant took it the first time at least, and so we'll be seeing that again. Thursday, we're going to see the Fusion versus the Dynasty. This would be a big test for the Fusion. If they can pull out some wins to get the Dynasty, or even the whole match, that's going to really set them up to be one of the top teams in the standings at least. And the Outlaws, they're going to be sweating for sure because they've got a lot ahead of them. After that, we get the Outlaws versus the Valiant. That's going to be a great game, I think. I'm actually very, very excited about that game. I'm going to predict that the Houston Outlaws win 3-2. I think that one's going to go to the 5th tiebreaker. But I can 100% see Valiant winning this. It could really go either way. It just depends if Valiant turn up. After that, we got Boston versus Shanghai. Shanghai bye. Later. Boston's going to win that. Prove me wrong, please. But Boston. Friday.
Do you think Shanghai picks up a single game in either of these matches? Not like wins the game, but picks up a single map. Do you think they can even do that?
No. Not against those two teams.
You
not against Seoul and not against Boston. No.
Okay.
I could possibly see against Boston. I could see Boston making a flub because Boston sometimes does that. But I would predict a 4-0 right now, honestly.
Okay. Fair enough.
So we'll move to Friday. We got the Spitfire versus Boston. Speaking of the devil, Spitfire are gonna 3-1 that, maybe 4-0. I don't think Boston really have a chance. It'd be awesome to see them turn up. If Dreamcasper and the supports can really... That's the thing about Dreamcasper. He's the DPS player. He's a Genji player. He can do some other things as well. He sometimes goes off on his own. He can make some flashy plays, but sometimes he just dies, and it's like, well, now your team's vulnerable because no one's doing damage to their backline. Bye. So I'm hoping that they can get some coercion there and stop dying, Dreamcasper. I like you, but you got to stop. After that, we got the New York Excelsior versus the Philadelphia Fusion. Fusion have a pretty tough schedule this week. But again, this is the week of try. Like, they're going to be tried so hard, and they're really going to have to prove themselves. Can they take themselves to win a game against these Korean teams? If they can, then I 100% think that they will be in the playoffs. If they can get 2 wins this week, I 100% think they'll make playoffs. So I'm hoping for them. Because honestly, I like the Fusion. It's nice to see another team up in the mix. Right there with the Valiant as well. I want to see them do well. And I want to see the Outlaws get back on top because they had a very, very rough week last week. But thankful for the Outlaws. If they do lose to the Valiant, they're playing the Florida Mayhem. The Mayhem are getting better. I don't think the Outlaws drop this, though. I say 3-1, 4-0 most likely, but I'll give the Mayhem a little bit, 3-1. And then our last day on Saturday, we got the London Spitfire versus the Gladiators. Spitfire going to walk all over them. I'll say 4-0. New York Excelsior versus San Francisco Shock. I'm going to say 3-1. I'm interested to see... So San Francisco Shock have Soon. I'm sorry, no. They have... Who does San Francisco Shock have? Let me look it up.
Sinatra.
I'm trying to think of their DPS. Let's see. San Francisco Shock. They've got Baby Bay. Baby Bay is awesome. Sinatra as well. It'll be interesting to see how they fare against the players of come back. Of Excelsior. I definitely think Excelsior is going to wipe them, but it's going to be interesting to see those DPS matchups, especially from these just insane DPS players. I love seeing Sabiobi play. He's one of the best tracers. I'm going to say he's the best tracer in the world, honestly. And it's fun to see because he really takes the issue to those other tracers. He loves the 1v1 tracer battle, and most of the time he wins them. So it's very, very fun to see him play. Wrapping up Saturday, we got the Florida Mayhem versus the Dallas Fuel. I'm going to take the Florida Mayhem here. I want Dallas Fuel to win so badly. But honestly, my belief is just it's like UNCLG. It's just gone. Like, any stocks you got in the Dallas Fuel, throw them away, burn them. It's going to be more valuable as firewood.
So they 2-0, if that's the case then. So
oh,
XQC
praying to God.
Then, all right, yeah. So Dallas, I always made jokes that how CLG didn't get into the Overwatch League. They did. There's a reason they're both blue. It's just they're the secret investors. They're
Basically.
the low key supporting Dallas Fuel kind of investors. I get that.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's
On more realistically on Dallas. Do you think that as a team, when do you stop saying? I mean, XQC wasn't the problem, or rather, he is the problem, or whatever you want to say, because he was gone all of stage 1, and now he's back stage 2, and you keep saying how hopefully this team finds their groove and picks up a couple wins, and they still have yet to really show that strength. Now, I don't assume he was practicing with him at least all the time back in stage 1, but they've gotten some practice in, obviously. So what's going on? When are they going to start picking up games again? Because I'm willing to say benefit of doubt, maybe even up to week 3, that like with a player, if you weren't playing with him, even if he was on your team, if he was benched and you weren't playing with him even as much, chances are you're not going to be as good with him, as synergized with him. But
yeah, that's definitely
how long
fair.
until you argue that the player being gone wasn't the problem?
Well,
Like,
here's
just
the
something
here's the thing
fuel.
too. Even when he was on the team at first, the Dallas Fuel didn't do well the very first like few weeks of the stage 1. If we look here, they lost to Seoul Dynasty, which isn't that big of a deal. They did lose to the LA Valiant week 1. Let's see, week 2, they got 0-4 by Outlaws. Let's see what else. They lost to Spitfire, which those are some better teams, but still, they really they started off 0-4. They lost against Fusion, that's 0-5. They lost against Excelsior, that's 0-6. They finally got a win against Shanghai, but it was 3-2. Like, Shanghai took 2 maps off you? Come on.
Oh, gosh.
Come on.
They've taken 7 maps. That means more than a quarter of all the maps they've taken this season have been from. Oh boy,
Yeah.
that's not.
And then they finished
that's
it
not a good
beating
thing.
the LA Gladiators. So, I mean, it was a really rough stage 1 for them, even with QCK or whatever his freaking name is, 'cause I can't remember it. They haven't ever looked good. And that's the scary thing about it. All their players are very, very good players. This was a team that everyone thought would be one of the top non-Korean teams. And they haven't shown up at all, ever.
I stand corrected. Shanghai Dragons have, of their 7 maps that they have won, they've taken 3 of them off Dallas Fuel.
Wow.
Because they lost one of their maps back in stage 2, week 1.
That's fair, yeah. That's
So-
crazy. Absolutely crazy. But yeah, I want the Dallas Fuel to be good. I like a lot of the players on that team. I don't know if it's just communication or what's going on, but there's just some kind of disconnect there that they're not able to synergize, and you can even see in their team play, it just looks sloppy. They just get rolled sometimes, and it's like, what just happened? Like, no, I blinked and you guys are all dead all of a sudden. Like, I don't know what's going on. So it's sad to see, especially with so many talented players. So it definitely shows that communication and macro play and team play is definitely still an important thing in Overwatch, and that you can't just be good individually to win these matches, especially against these Korean teams and apparently against all the teams other than Shanghai. So
yeah, if you want to beat Shanghai, all you really have to do is show up on stage and have a pulse, apparently. But
yeah, I'm assuming that's what they did that week that they took it to overtime. They probably woke up right there. They were taking a nap.
yeah, everyone's like, oh, wait, you mean rolling my face on the keyboard while I'm sleeping wasn't an effective strategy? My bad.
Yeah.
Give me a 5-hour engine and I'll play a real game.
Basically, yeah. But we'll go ahead. I think that's enough talk about standings.
This podcast not sponsored by 5-hour engine, by the way. We'll
If
take
only.
your sponsorship, but not sponsored.
We'll get there one day. We'll go ahead. Enough talk about these boring old stats and whatnot. Let's get over to the highlights. Pew! All right, guys, we've got a lot of fun highlights. Some disrespect, some just crazy plays. And we'll start off with Zumba, and we'll just let you watch there.
Ground with the tag visor, bold move, and he gets punished for it. Meanwhile, Zumba trying to fight it out on the high ground, drops that self-destruct right onto Fissure. Oh, the disrespect! It hurts bad. Bishu.
So yeah, that was definitely an awesome play. If you can't tell what's happening, basically, oh man, that's so sad. Fissure, he got sleep darted. He was just taking a nap. And Zuba just walks up and ults on top of him. Just, you having a nice nap? take a self-destruct to the face, and he's gone.
Savage.
The amount of disrespect there, like, there's so many different ways he could have used that ult. They could have just killed him, just straight up. But, like, now let's just put a giant atomic exploding bionic machine on top of you. Take that, monkey.
So, like, was that it? It was just disrespect?
That was just, yeah, it was just beautiful disrespect. Like, that's just the beauty of it. So, definitely a fun one.
Classic beat.
Oh, yeah. We'll hop over. The next one's going to be a clip. We've got the next 2 clips from the Houston Excelsior game. Both on the same map. It was actually a really good map. It actually went to overtime. And this first clip is awesome. My favorite tank player, Muma. We'll let them hop in.
He's the only one in it. Jandis comes in the background, but there's Muma dropping that Earth Shatter. There's a charge onto the Transcendence. Oh, and he's going to knock him off. What an angle from Muma. Just dropping Jonak.
All right, so such a beautiful play there. Basically what happens, he tries to Earth Shatter, the Zenyatta ults, but he can't do anything, so he goes, okay, I'm going to take you instead. The perfect, just perfect angle to charge him off the map. Like, look at this. This is so minuscule.
Oh my
just
gosh.
perfect. And then the little wave. Like, he just styled on him. That's all that is. It's just such a good play. Just perfect style. I mean, I can't believe it, honestly.
That's such a good counter to the Zenyatta ult. Just take him completely away from the fight, from using his ult. I mean, yeah, he's invulnerable. He's not immovable. And you just say, sorry, you die to fall damage still.
Literally,
take him halfway across the map into the one hole that he could find.
That's literally only way you could have killed the ulting Zenyatta, and he somehow figured it out. Like, it's just a heads-up play. Like, the mechanical skill, like, he was, like, going back and forth. He's like, all right. It felt like he was in a flight simulator, just, like, veer left. Like, it was just beautiful. I loved it.
He was landing a plane, except he was really landing a Reinhardt on Zenyatta's face.
Basically.
So,
it was awesome. But from the same game, Zenyatta had his revenge. So Jay Jonak just popping off here.
Than they would have otherwise been able to do.
Right, so, man, we'll just watch this one again. Deals with the Genji, deals with the Tracer. Jonak doesn't need
And then they're just chilling.
damage.
So basically what happened there, just to break it down, you have an ulting Genji. He just takes him out real quick with a headshot, and then just the beautiful play on the Tracer. Like, that's just 2 quick kills. Like, you can't do it any better than that. Like, you just can't.
Cheeky water break. Just like, oh yeah, I know how much swag I have. But no, that was really clean. Picks up some of the 2 fastest movers probably in Overwatch.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
That's
that
just
was
the 2
really,
DPS
really
players. Like, that pushed them to the next point, and like, that's just, oh man, it was crazy. But yeah, just, it's crazy to see how accurate some of these Zenyatta players are with those orbs, especially the charge. Like, they're taking out Widowmakers across the map. Like, it's just absolutely insane to me. I was watching a game, I don't remember what game it was. I want to say it was one of the Excelsior games, but the Zenyatta, Jay Jonak, literally took out the Tracer every single time the Tracer tried to jump on him. Every time. Like, he just had his number. And it's just like,
hypothetically,
oh my god,
if Overwatch allowed it in ranked games, who would win? A well-balanced, well-thought-out team comp, or a team of 4 Zenyatas and 2 tanks? Because I've seen them do some damage, and I'm like, I want to hope that your answer would be like a well-balanced team comp, but I see these Zenyatas, and you're like telling me all about how they can snipe, and I'm like, what if they just focus fire? Just pick a certain DPS, all of them charge up, and take them all out. This is hypothetical. Obviously, you can't have 4 Zenyatas, but
here's my question, and this is just me not having enough game knowledge about it, but if you have more than 1 Zenyatta and you discord someone, which gives you 50% more damage on that person, what if you stack orbs? I'm assuming that's not a thing, but what if it was? You just,
once again, it had to be a hypothetical
sure.
thing, because you can't stack chance. Like,
you can't in competitive. They do have a mode where it's no limits, so you can have a full team of Zenyatas if you wanted to. But that's not
competitive. I have to assume there'd be like diminishing returns or something, like maybe 50% and 50%, and then 50% of that.
I don't even think you could stack it. I'm assuming what it is you could just have 50% more damage on every single hero on the other team, which even that would be crazy. Plus there's healing, plus the ults. Like, honestly, 4 Zenyatas and 2 tanks, it could be countered. It could be countered. There's definitely a better team comp. I mean, it'd be hard to take out like a Pharah or even a Junkrat. I don't know. That would be a hard one.
Actually, really funny.
That's a hard question, and I hate that. I hate it. But yeah, definitely a lot of fun. Our last play of the day, your favorite, Trent, a good old Tracer play. And it's not so much of a flashy kill play. Basically, it's just such a heads-up play, knowing what's going on. It's our boy Sabioli on the New York Excelsior against the Boston Uprising, and I'll just let the casters take it away.
Going to be a miracle needed out of Mako, and Diva simply doesn't have the tools to pull it off.
Boston, in the end, looks like they will hold another Deadeye for Dreamcaster. That was a quick one.
Sabioli somehow touched.
No, wait,
Sabioli somehow touched during that. They're still alive.
This is still possible. Overtime wing is going, and now we have Libero going for the back line. Nako could be gone, and he is beheaded. Sold for spare parts. Libero doing the work right now. Gamsu's out as well.
Oh my God! They are so close to finishing it out. They will finish out Gibraltar.
Beautiful. And so this is kind of a dual highlight. You see Libero just pop off there on the Genji with his ult. But the only way he was able to do that, if you look, they get the reset. New York Excelsior base get the reset. They have to stagger. You see the Tracer fly by. And if you look at the overtime, if you kept an eye on it, it was literally this much. It was about to end the game. He's able to dash past the ulti McCree, touch the point, get away from it and doesn't die. Ends up actually getting the freaking Mercy. And then that allows his team to come in and just clean up. Like, I think it'll play one more time. I hope it does. If not, then I'll play it.
Okay, because I missed it the first time, and now I actually see what really happened.
Yeah,
that's actually insane.
It's absolutely insane. I'm hoping it goes through one more time. I'm not sure because it's such a long clip. I'll replay it if I have to. I'm going to replay it. So just keep an eye on it. I'm going to let the sound come in again. Just keep an eye on that timer and watch the Tracer go by as the McCree's ulting. If the McCree would have been able to get that ult off and kill the Tracer, game over. If Tracer doesn't dash and get on point, game over. Like, no chance for the Genji ult, no chance for anything. Like, they game over and Boston wins the map. So watch this one more time. Maybe. Let's see.
Going to be a miracle needed
there
out of Mako, and Diva simply doesn't have the tools to pull it off.
So here's the ult. You see Tracer go by. Look at the overtime. Literally on 0. Like, it was about to be gone.
That's actually insane.
It's just... And it sets it up for this beautiful play by Libero. It's just all around just great. Great stuff. I'll let it finish. Beautiful. Good stuff. Yeah, it was absolutely nuts just to see Sabioli. He had so much to think about there. He had to get onto the point. He had to dodge the McCree. If the McCree would have turned a little bit more, he would have been able to kill, because everyone knows Tracer has 150 health. It doesn't take much for McCree's ult, much time for it to zone in and be able to one-shot. So, like, it was just, honestly, I can't see it going any other way. Like, or there's 1,000 ways it could have gone badly for the Excel, but he was able just to barely get out of the sight of the McCree, touch the point, get a kill on Mercy, and then the rest of the team follows up and they win the map. Like, it is absolutely mind-boggling to me. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us here at Recall. I don't have anything left to talk about. Do you have any final thoughts?
That's me for the week. We talked about the upcoming matches, talked about playoff predictions. We'll be rolling into that for League, and Overwatch League will hit it at about the same time. So just keep your YouTube tiled in to right here. Subscribe if you haven't. Oh, yeah. And we'll catch you next week.
Awesome, awesome. Well, you can follow me at BrennanH_. I didn't fix my Twitter thing again. Dang it. Oh, well. And then you got Trent there at Avius Gaming. We're both on Twitter. YouTube is at youtube.com/the Experience. It's going to be on my channel, but we'll eventually create our own channel if this gets decently big enough. But from all of us here at Recall, we appreciate your viewership, and we'll see you guys next time. It's been Recall. Bye.